Sophia is the founder and CEO of LinkThings, the only end-to-end IoT solution provider in Pakistan. Sophia has previously worked with Telenor, Deutsche Telekom, and the GSMA in strategy products and market engagement roles. Her work took her across Asia, Africa, and Europe, and she got a chance to watch market dynamics and urban situations. Her passion to find high-tech solutions for real business and social challenges led to LinkThings, that focuses on smart manufacturing and smart cities in emerging markets using IoT and big data. Sophia has BE and MS from NED University and University of Michigan, respectively. Hi, Sophia. Welcome to Head to Heart Conversations. So it's great to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. I know with back-to-back customer meetings, pre-Ramzan, it can be crazy. But I'm glad that you've taken the time to talk to us because you're doing something that's very different. You're in an area that many women haven't yet got into. So I wanted to have this conversation so that you may be able to inspire some others to take this route. So tell us a little bit about your background and your career.
So I am an electrical engineer and a computer systems engineer by training. I did my bachelor's in computers from NED and then my master's in electrical engineering from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And since then, I have been working in various areas of technology. So, and even before that, so like when I was with NED, I got a tremendous opportunity to work with one of the brainiest people, I would say, Samir Hudvoy Saab. Yes. And I could work with him from I think it was my second year when I started. And I learned so much from him that I couldn't learn at the university. And that was like how to approach a problem. I think the problem solving approach and being socially conscious about what you are doing is something that I learned from him, and I'm indebted to him for all that, the learnings that I had while working with him, and it still continues. Like, so he's my biggest mentor. I call him my virtual father as well, because he, wherever I am, I mean, I think like him a little bit, or I try to, always say, okay, what he would be doing. So I got that opportunity, and I think that changed the whole perspective, like what you can do with engineering other than, like doing databases, or because databases were new and everybody was doing that. I'm talking about 90s. And everybody was doing that. So I was like, no, you can actually use engineering to solve problems and do more innovative work than just doing run-of-the-mill work. So I got the opportunity. I worked with him. And then from then onwards, I think I always got something which was very innovative. Any new idea, my boss would call me and say, how to approach it. So like that whole problem solving, critical thinking, those approaches were I think that helped me to get to a point where I was like, when somebody said that, you have to set up the largest POS network, and I'm talking about 2005, and we were doing a online POS network. I said, let's do it, right? So, I don't think twice about, the challenges. I think that, the challenge in itself is that you overcome all the challenges. So I took that.
Yeah.
I took that challenge. We set that up. Unfortunately, we couldn't run it for a longer time because of a lot of other things. And I think that taught me that technology alone also cannot solve a lot of things in the business, especially. So you have to have a legal framework around it. You have to have strong marketing, and everybody has to be in sync. So then I moved on to Telenor, and I got a very challenging project. Nobody was looking at mobile financial services back in 2007 and 8. I took that. I was like, okay, let's try it. It is possible. I've already done a point of sale terminal. So I will be actually looking at that. And I did develop the strategy. Then I got an opportunity to go outside Pakistan again. And I had never worked in digital marketing space. I had little brush with you a few years before that. And they were doing something innovative. Their customer was McDonald's in Germany, and they wanted to somehow set up McDonald's as an MVNO, as a digital marketing strategy. So I went in there, met with financial crisis of 2008. Was almost jobless, but then I found a job with Deutsche Telekom, and I worked with them for 4 years as a product manager there. So I learned a lot of things, like, strategy, processes. I think the biggest thing that I learned was that, again, there's always a process to follow. So you cannot just jump in and become the lone warrior. You need a team, and you process and how you actually divide the work and handshake the work and all that. So I learned a lot of that. So to cut the story short, sorry?
Did you learn German while you were there?
Yes, yes. So that I took that challenge as well, and I said, okay, I will do that. And by my last year in Germany, I was also presenting in German, so that was good achievement. I still remember a little bit of it, and then I think that just like I again taking apps were new. iOS was new. Everybody was talking about it. I worked on iOS apps, Android apps, even Windows apps. So I think again got an opportunity to work on something that was really new and cutting edge. Then I came back to Pakistan for family reasons, and again, I had learned new skills like agile development and design thinking. So I was approaching technology companies, and they all said, we don't need something like this. We are happy with our processes. And I'm talking about 2012 when I came back, and I was like pushing people to adopt agile, and they were like, and we want to bug our technical teams with the new projects and new ideas every day. So that kind of discipline, I think, was missing in the software houses. But I just continued that kind of work. I got opportunity to work with GSMA as well. And around that, I think 2015, there was a lot of M2M and IoT actually. So M2M has transcended into IoT, and there were a lot of conversations on what can be done. And I was having a conversation with just a dinner table talk with my husband, and he was telling me what can be done with IoT. And I was like, oh, this is a piece of cake for me, because I had done something like this. And then he really pushed me. He said, okay, so then you explore it and see. I said, no, I'm very happy with my job. I don't want to get into this space. He just pushed me, said, do something. Show me that you can do it. And I said, okay. So I
was that the beginning of Linked Things, or was it much later?
Sorry?
Was that the beginning of Linked Things, or was it better?
That was actually the beginning. So like, that for 3 months, he was pestering me every day, every morning, was like, when are you going to do something about it? And I was like, I can't do it. I can't leave my job. I love my job. I don't want to do something. But he was like, no, you have to try it. So I said, okay. If somebody is pushing me, I said, okay, let's try it. I got people on board. I hired 2 engineers. I started to look into things, and then I hired 2 engineers because I was like, maybe I can't do things with my hand anymore after 15, 16 years of just doing PowerPoints and Excels. Then I got those people, and it was very good experience. I think whatever the ideas that we discussed in 90s, how technology can solve a lot of problems and the connectivity and the challenges with the backend and everything was not there. So we had a lot of success in just the 3 weeks, and we said, okay, let's do it. So we then registered the company, got the space, everything. And then, yeah, it's been 6 years.
Now tell me a little bit about what Linked Things is, and especially your latest project with the Green Line in Karachi. That would be really interesting.
Okay, so I think one thing that, after starting Linked Things was, okay, IoT, but what IoT can do, right? So Linked Things is an IoT company. We call ourselves as IoT as a service for emerging markets, especially because our realities are different. So, there's no doubt, there is no iota of any doubt that IoT cannot deliver. IoT will deliver all the value that, the consultants have been harping about since 2014 or 2015. And every day, I mean, of course, the numbers change, but the value creation is going to be there. And it is the next step where you are actually connecting the physical world with the cyberspace or cyber world. This is going to happen. No matter what, it is slowly and gradually happening. But I think what really struck me in those days was that, these businesses in Europe, in US, in China, may get better advantage because they have got better connectivity, they've got better infrastructure, whereas we are the ones who are still lacking in stable infrastructure. I'm calling you from Karachi's biggest industrial area, or one of the thriving industrial area. I'm sitting at Port Qasim. My internet, I'm always getting this, your internet is unstable, right? So that is the biggest challenge, that we do not have infrastructure. We may have an infrastructure for consumers, but for businesses there isn't, and the cost of doing business is very high. So how we can actually develop solutions that are cost effective, provide shorter ROI period, and are stable. So people generally, when I started Link Things and I was like, I'm going to focus on Pakistani market, everybody said, you're crazy, right? Everybody is exporting software, everybody is talking about customers outside, and everybody has already tried local industry and tried to bring them at par, and but it's not that there aren't that many success stories that have actually transformed businesses or have been able to sell in that amount that they are actually exporting. So I said, okay, let's just do this. We're going to do IoT as a service for businesses and industries. But I think we have got, takes time, we were consistent, persistent, and then we found this niche that, okay, businesses are going to be, so manufacturing sector really needs it. That's where the largest value is. If you look at all the, the documents and all that, that's there. We have got machines that were installed 50 years ago, 20 years ago, cannot talk, cannot communicate. And how are we going to do all of that? So that's the challenge, and that's what we are doing. So we focus now on two things: smart manufacturing and smart cities. These are the two things, I think, where we think the market is kind of lukewarm already, and we can also make the largest impact. So we are working on that. As far as the green line is concerned, so we got this opportunity again to install our energy monitors on each and every station. So although, I mean, it's a very futuristic project itself, Green Line, I've seen all the documents, they're connecting the buses, and they've got, very stable connectivity over there, and every station is connected through fiber, and, ticket machines are new, everything is connected. So they have the futuristic vision. And for us, we thought, since we also specialize in energy monitoring, we said we will do energy monitoring of each station. We bring all the data to their OCC. They can see which stations have got power from grid, generator, fuel level, and also different loads. So, whether escalators are working, elevators are working, ticket machines are working. So that kind of they get the whole comprehensive picture of Green Line. And that's kind of futuristic. It's step towards smart cities, that actually, okay, you've got one project to start with and say, okay, this is, we're getting the information.
But you have to start somewhere, right?
You have to start somewhere, and you have to show success. So I think for me, it's also very important that we say, okay, we didn't just do it, we did it successfully.
Okay, great. So tell us now, with IoT, the adoption of IoT platforms is sort of accelerating, and they continue to evolve. Where does Pakistan actually stand in this evolution? So you mentioned manufacturing and now the Green Line. How else are people using it already? Or how do you think they should use it that they haven't started adopting it yet?
Okay. So I think IoT is part of the industry 4.0 that people call, or it is actually really physically digital transformation. Right. And it will be actually driven by all the digital transformation efforts that people bring in. So I think, and people also have to realize that IoT is disruptive. So you cannot say that, I'm doing the same thing, I'm getting the data here because I can control my my machinery from machine location. So I'm okay, I'm doing industry. It's all about actually autonomous systems that you can connect is in virtual space or in cyberspace, basically. And that's the idea. If you have, a lot of people have discussed that, there are SCADA systems already there, which were actually, connected, old industrial automation. We start with the point where automation already exists. I always tell people that, a good example is that, textile is a huge sector in Pakistan. But, garments is one which is pretty much manual, right? So like, individuals sewing something and doing, we don't we don't want to work with garments because that's not automated yet. But we would like to work in weaving, spinning, all these where the machines are there. We want to get the data from machines. We are not going to come and tell you to automate. We do a little bit of controlling based on alerts and all the systems that are there. But the idea is that you get the data. So I think where we are, COVID helped us a lot in the manufacturing sector. People could move, a lot of their functions to in work from home mode, but obviously manufacturing can't be done from home. So that was the reason. That was, I think, the aha moment for us that okay, the industry is now thinking that they need to go towards this kind of thing where they can get the insights, manufacturing insights, from their wherever their plant is into their boardrooms or their drawing rooms, wherever they are. And I think that's where there is a shift in mindset a little bit on the manufacturing side. I think people are skeptical. The promise is too big to digest or too big to actually, to believe, I think, for people. So they are skeptical. We're getting orders, people get excited, but then, when it comes to actual implementation, they want to try out pilots. So on manufacturing side, a lot of pilots are happening. I think in terms of enterprise side, I think decision making and understanding is very poor. Like even in the financial sector, banks, the understanding what they can do with IoT is very, very, very limited. And, it's not across the board as well at certain level. So yeah, I think
Give us an
it's
example
slowly,
of,
but it is very, very slow process when it comes to adoption.
give us an example, Sophia, of what banks could use IoT for. Maybe because of the lack of understanding, people are not seeing, how they can benefit. So how could they benefit? What could
Okay,
they
I
do?
think one use case that we always showed them is that they all have got ATM machines, and our experience is that if living in Karachi, if you are not on II, Chundrika Road, Shara Faisal or Clifton, ATMs are in bad situations. The rooms are in bad situations. So you can actually install cost-effective remote monitoring systems. We have also showed this to top 5 banks in Pakistan, but no ownership. Who actually owns it? I think that's also a question. Is it IT? Is it operations? Because it's a joint effort, and who actually owns it is always a question. Is the retail banking is going to own it or whatever? So ATM, you've got a wide branch network, you've got expensive energy cost, fuel as well as grid, air conditioning on and all that. So they typically, if you just look at building management or remote site management for the banks, you could do a lot of savings. So that's like direct saving. What other things can be done? IoT is something that's going to give you real-time information for your insurance, for your credit, for your industries, or to agriculture. You can always get the whether your customer is going to pay or not. And the same you can also do on the insurance side. If you are insuring crops or products, on the manufacturing side, you can actually set the premium. So like you can build financial products as well, and also go into direct savings in your daily operations.
And do you think SMEs will enter into
I think
this
I've
space,
lost
or
you.
are they entering into the space? So we've talked about
So
manufacturing, and we've talked about banks and enterprises. What about government and SMEs?
So government, yes. So like, the Green Line project is a government project, but it depends on consultants a lot more than the governments themselves on initiating these kind of projects. I think government should be doing all of this. I've seen, foreign funded projects, like development projects where monitoring is a strong component. But I mean, it's a realization. It's always a slow process. So, if you think that, something is being discussed today or was discussed 3 years ago, it's going to take time. So, yeah, but governments can play definitely a big role. I think in the smart city space, smart village, smart farming, that all will come from the government initiatives largely. And we are seeing that. So, understanding, getting capacity. I always think that, this is digital transformation. So wherever you go, and we are talking about in revolution, we say it, right? So organization's structure has to change. So right now, organizational structure is in silos. We face the same problem with the banks. Who's the owner? So, you need to cut across all these silos and say that, we don't work. Like, for example, if you're doing, for example, air quality monitoring in the city, now there's environment ministry, and there are other industries that can actually, or ministries that can actually, environment ministry, and there are other ministries that can actually benefit from the data that is getting it. So direct data beneficiary is definitely your environment protection agencies or your environment monitoring, climate change.
Health ministry would also benefit.
Health ministry, health, education, what's happening around the parks, what is happening around the school, traffic, pollution, all of this, your Ministry of Energy, whoever is planning, developing. So you need to look at, okay, this is one source of data and what I can do across these, all this. So it's a shift that you are saying, okay, I'm not going to look at just one thing, I'm going to look across this. And this, my air quality data is just one input to the whole management and planning.
Okay, so how can IoT and AI tackle urban challenges intelligently, such as maybe traffic management, energy management, water, waste, access? You've just talked about access to clean air already. How can both of these, I mean, technology, we want technology to be used to solve problems, as you said. So how can we use IoT and AI to do these things intelligently?
We need to first deploy and start getting the data. Say, okay, so I think we have seen what data can do on, social media side or on other,
or even on
AI
in the case of COVID, we have seen how it worked, right?
Yes, exactly. Now we are only talking about with IoT is getting that data and getting it in a form that you can actually use it, right? So IoT is actually connecting your virtual physical space with cyber space or with virtual space and start getting the data. The moment you have better data leakages. In Karachi, I was at a seminar in 2019, I think. Was a huge seminar with 20 people. You ask them what is Karachi's water requirement, you'll get 20 different answers. We don't know what is Karachi's demand, right? And then you blame that, okay, it's the textile sector that's not using it. It's like consumers that are wasting. It's like leakages, suction pumps, whatever. But what is the demand? Nobody actually knows, right? And this basic problem can be solved by actually doing water metering, right? Or actually getting the data from, and then you can, from then onwards, you can look at distribution issues, you can look at equitable distribution, supply side, all of this. But first thing is, what is Karachi's demand? Nobody knows.
So we need the data before we can do anything.
Same goes with, the traffic congestions. We just do not know, like, Google knows. Yes. I mean, we are living in 2020s, and I don't think so anybody needs to know the significance of data. As you said, I mean, with COVID, we have seen, right, that data actually helps you manage the situation. Here we're not managing, we won't be able to manage. The explosion of population in urban spaces is huge. We're talking about 70% people living in urban spaces in by 2050, 2040, whoever's estimates you look at. And how are we going to solve housing problems? There's like every day there's a new apartment block popping up. There is water problem, there is electricity problems, gas problems, but we don't know all of this without getting the data. And the cities are becoming also like unmanageable in this structure where we are saying, okay, building control is going to do this, KMC is going to do this, KD is going to do this. So you need across the board. So you have to look at, you should have Ministry of electric supply, but that has to be across the board.
Right. So Pakistan is an agriculture-based economy, and several of our trade partners depend on our quality and quantity of yield. So how important is it for a country like Pakistan to adopt IoT in the agricultural setup?
Very important. I think it's extremely important to know because of the climate change. So, our crop depends on, the accurate farming that happens, and our farmers are doing their best. But climate change, we are actually getting, unexpected rainfalls, flooding, drought. Everything has become kind of unpredictable with climate change aspects. So farmers cannot rely on, like, okay, come November I will do this, and come December I will do this, or my sun is there, so I'm gonna, the sun sun is there, so I'm gonna, do it, put my crops in this direction, or I will put a shade there. So everything is changing. I have seen that, drip irrigation is coming up now. These tunnel farmings are coming up, and they all require management now. So all that management will come from getting the data. So, your old ways, I have seen, I mean, we installed a couple of agricultural units as well. And when I said, okay, how moist is your soil? They make a ball of the soil, and then they throw it, and, they look at the dispersed ball or broken ball, and they say, okay, that's how moist my soil is, right? But that's, how can I translate it? Is it 10%, 20%, 50%? So that's where actually the role of agronomist comes in. And unfortunately, we do not have that many of them who actually are, progressive, or are, looking at more data. So unfortunately, we have trained them in the traditional farming methodologies, and they look at it, okay, we'll do soil testing once a year, or we'll do, pani khol do, pani band kar do, urea dal do, fertilizer dal do. But it's not that's going to happen. Like, the soil is changing, rivers are changing the course. So data is required, especially, so, you need to know what is the nutrients level is, moisture level is, water level, temperatures of the soil, to actually, fight all the challenges of climate change.
So how do we begin to educate our farmers and other professionals in the agri sector? I know some of it is happening, but what can we do that will accelerate this process?
I think education, awareness, doing pilot projects, finding people who can. So we finally found someone who is willing to actually, work with us to understand the data. Because after, I think it's been 3.5 years, we work with different organizations, but everyone looks at data and they get happy. But I want to go beyond that. Okay, we got the data. I'm telling you the moisture is 40%. What should the farmer do? So the whole advisory should be based on, okay, now you've got this, you've got nutrient levels at, 10%, 20%. Should you be worried? Should you be doing something, or chill and relax, right? So these kind of indicators need to be, and I think it's going to take a lot of time again, because you have to build that knowledge. Unfortunately, there is a big, huge disconnect. We always neglect that's a rural population. They've got huge amount of domain knowledge, which needs to actually be translated into modern technical database analysis, right? I mean, there are a lot of papers that, US universities write, or, other parts of the world, they write it, but their ways of irrigation are different. Their climate is different. So we have to actually look at, how we can actually translate all the domain knowledge in the chest of our farmers and bring it out. It's going to be huge. There is an opportunity there that you go out and say, okay, and crop by crop. And problem with crops is that they have cycles. So, like, you have to wait 2 to 3 years. If you have got data for 1 year, you have to see if the pattern is repeated the next year. And the third year, you can actually, look at your predictive models. Unfortunately, you can't expedite it. That's how it's going to happen.
So you're doing a lot, but it must be exhausting. And it's not enough that only you should be doing this. Are there more people who are now excited or interested in getting into this area?
Yes. So, I've seen then that, a lot of young people are interested in doing IoT. A lot of final year projects are happening. People are trying it. And that's also very encouraging. People are also approaching it from different sides. Some people are just looking at one product. Some people are looking at platform. So I'm really excited that this is a space that's getting a lot of attention. And hopefully we'll see, the kind of traction we have seen in fintech and e-commerce in the market. This will also come, because that's the next step. Like, okay, I have delivered, but I also have to produce. I also have to manufacture. How can actually I can expedite the whole thing? And the people are coming in, and it's very encouraging.
Okay, and also there is this perception that your field is a male-dominated field. How did this perception come about? Is it true, and how can we change it? Should more women be pursuing this field? And what have been your biggest learnings through this journey of yours through IoT and AI, this area? Lots of questions in one, I'm afraid, but take it one step at a time.
So I know. So I think biggest learning is that never give up. Okay. So whoever thinks whatever about you, you have to, if you believe in yourself, go ahead, do it. Right. So that's the biggest learning. When it comes to women, I can talk about, like, if we talk about, for example, farming, obviously the bosses are the farmers, but I've seen women working in the field as well, right? They do all the plucking, sowing, everything is done by them in the field. The same, I think, goes in the manufacturing sector. A lot of women are in every industry, like be that food, textile, plastics, pharmaceutical. I've seen women working at low end of the jobs, and some of them on the marketing side maybe, but now that I'm also seeing young women and some experienced women on the plant management side. I think what I feel is that their contribution always gets, never gets highlighted. Somebody once asked me, like, what is your advice to women? And I said, 99.9% of the men just wake up in the morning, go to work, and that's their contribution, right? And they come back home, right? That's their contribution. Nobody pushes them, asking them, what are you going to do now today that's going to make the difference in the lives of your life or people around you. But I think the moment women step out, that's one expectations, that you are actually changing something, and you should be doing something. And I think women who get out of the house for a 9 o'clock job actually do a lot more to be at 9 o'clock at work. So that whole contribution doesn't get highlighted. Your own, like, I know that by the time I'm in the office, I'm tired. But there's so much that you have already done during the day, like before coming to work. So I think women needs to be appreciated for whatever they're doing. Even if they're not doing anything, they're just being at work, contributing. We all contribute. As men contribute, we contribute. Everyone contributes. We don't have to. But I think we don't get a lot of projection. I think networking is very difficult for women to, after a certain point, you go to the next level of your career through networking. And I think networking challenges are there. Definitely, A, we have to be back home. B, where do you go and network? Like, either you play golf or you actually socialize with them afterwards. After work socialization is kind of not acceptable in certain sections of the society here still. Like, why are you going out at night? You'll be meeting men. And of course, but those kind of opportunities have to be created for women to come and talk and, be visible. I think the onus is more on men now, because there is enough critical mass of women employees in their organizations. It is onus on men to actually provide them opportunities to grow in their career, to provide them a conducive environment to grow. We cannot be expected to have, work late, right? Because they've got other responsibilities. Unless somebody is sharing that with you, it is very, very difficult. Like, for example, I always said this, at 6 o'clock or 6:30 when you're leaving, now somebody says, oh, Sophia, you're leaving, or, have tea with us and then go. And I'm always like, I've got no wife at home. So,
Quite right.
that's a luxury that they have. I got no wife at home, so I have to go and do that. So,
So how has it been raising a daughter with a full-time job and all the things that you've been doing?
I just like, okay, it's my work. I have to get that done. So, it is difficult. Definitely, it can be a lot more difficult for other women, I realize. And, because of family, because, sometimes most of the women who are now venturing in out and into new workspaces are probably the first generation that is getting out. And, it is a huge transformation. I got a lot of support, definitely from my family, from my in-laws, from my husband, and we all, the whole village raised one daughter, actually, with me. And but I think where I actually really raised her was in Germany, because I was alone, and but I got a lot of support. I think the whole, there was infrastructure available to support a working woman, which we do not have at the moment. So we rely a lot more on the family. But there was there were daycares available where I could send her, or there was a network of babysitters that could come. If I had to leave at 5 a.m. for a flight, because I was also traveling, I could arrange a babysitter who could come and stay the night there with my daughter and send her to school the next morning. And that was also paid by my employer. So, these kind of things are, we've also got some of this in our FMCG, but this has to be accepted that women who are venturing out are doing 2 jobs a day. They need support. They need all the infrastructure that is required to raise the family as well as to work. We've got transport problems. I see women standing at the bus stop at 6 a.m. And I just say, okay, these women must have gotten up really early to be out at 6, to be at their job at 7 or whatever time. So we need better infrastructure for women to thrive and excel.
And what is next for Sophia Hasnain? What next? I mean, you continue to do what you're doing, but is there a big vision? What are you going to do like 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
This year, we would like to take it outside Pakistan. We think that, we have learned a lot from Pakistani infrastructure. We call Pakistan the toughest market to try out a product. And if we have been able to show some successes, I think we can go out. So for next 5 years, I'm with things. I have to make it the best world-class IoT company doing projects that nobody is doing. It's my person now. So Link Things is Sophia Hasnain's digital twin, which has to actually go out, live my values. I tried my co-workers to have the same values, take up the challenge. And what is the value? Take up the challenge, deliver your best, deliver it honestly, and believe in what you're doing. So if you don't believe in what you're doing, there's no point. You won't ever be able to convince people. So for 5 years, I'm with Link Things. And after that, hopefully retired.
I don't see you retiring that quickly. But good luck in the next 5 years. Which markets are you looking at?
Again, all emerging markets. So we'll focus outside Pakistan. I think I have spoken to people in India, which we have the same challenges. Unfortunately, we cannot tap into that market because of a lot of political situations. But Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Vietnam, GCC countries as well. I mean, GCC a little bit from the brand perspective might be a problem, but Nigeria, Africa, South America. I have people contacts over there, and everybody is quite receptive. We have this year got a Chinese customer as well. So we are, surprisingly, we got someone who got blown over by our dashboard. So they have all the hardware to get the data, but they were not, they were not able to get that kind of interpretation of the data that we have been able to get. So yeah, I mean, that's another market.
Good luck, Sophia. We are all looking for you.
And maybe a lot of traveling.
Yeah. So exciting to see what you're doing, and we'll follow your journey and see where you end up 5 years down the road.
Thank you very much.
Not retired.
Pleasure talking.
Thank you so much. Okay, take care. I think your customer must be.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.